Back there.
All right. We'll now,
Microphone.
oop, it's on. Can you guys hear me okay? There you go. All right. We will now reconvene, announce closed session. Any action? The attorney?
There was one item on the closed session agenda for tonight. The city council gave direction to its legal counsel with respect to one pending litigation matter, and that ends the closed session report.
Okay, closed section is now adjourned. Call to order.
Raise the volume, please.
City clerk, can you please call roll?
Councilmember Ashton,
Present.
Councilmember Frometa,
Present.
Councilmember Saab,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco,
Present.
and Mayor Rodriguez.
Here. Can you guys hear us back there? Loud and clear?
Okay.
Yes, good. Okay. So I'd now like to call for the invocation Brooklyn Kravik. Please step up to the mic. Alicia, can you help her with the mic?
Hi, I'm Brooklyn Kravik.
Welcome.
Before I want to pray, I'm going to tell you a Good Samaritan story because the Grand Council should be like the Good Samaritan, how he walked across the road and then robbers jumped out, and then the first man didn't help him, then the second man didn't help him, but the Good Samaritan, the third one, helped him, even though where that man was from and that Samaritan was from, they didn't like each other, but still, that Good Samaritan still helped that man. Like the Grand Council should be to, if they have a problem, they can fix it like the Good Samaritan. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just pray that the city councilor can be like the Good Samaritan, Lord. And I just pray that this day will be blessed by you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good job. Good job. Right away. Start off. For flag salute, I'd like to call Aiden Arancibia to the mic.
Wait.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you, Aiden. I'll take a break. No kidding. Hopefully it'll be a while before Aiden runs for office. He'll be a good job.
Both of them.
Yeah. Okay, so my city council colleagues, you'd like to announce your week's events, starting with my big little brother at the end.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, everyone. Always nice to see the chambers this full. First of all, I'd like to give a special welcome and acknowledgement to one of our former mayors, David Gaffin, who's here in the back. David Gaffin. And then representing the Downey Chamber of Commerce, we have Michael Calvert, the Executive Director, and also Michael Churko, one of the directors in the audience. Thank you for helping. And then also my Planning Commissioner, Noveras Frometa. who I'm sure will be recognized by someone else on the council in a second. We had a planning conference last week, a planning meeting. Basically what it is the city council gets together at the beginning of every year to plan, what are some of the goals and the directions that we want to want our city to go in the next year. And I wanted to thank staff for a great job. And once again, we renewed our efforts. We've laid down some overarching guidelines, and we renewed those this year, being that every decision, every action, every item that comes before us for a vote has to fall within one of the five goals, which are is it fiscally responsible, economic vibrancy, being efficient and adaptable. Does it help and assist with the quality of life of our residents? Regarding in neighborhood and infrastructure, and then also being that it's public engagement. So I just want to thank staff. I think it's important. We haven't always done this, but I think it's a good exercise in having the council together in a setting. It was open to the public, obviously, but it's good for the staff to hear some of the directions that and the goals, and we have a great council, which we have. Obviously, the common goal of continuing to move our city forward and improving things, help our residents, and this year it will be no exception to that. I know one of the things that I had brought up and was the goal of having a plan. Having a plan. Obviously, it's not going to happen this year or next year, but I think it's important we do have a plan in place to eventually. I know it's very expensive to have those utilities in the major corridors underground. I know that just in the Lakewood Boulevard, I think it was 6 million, 9 million just on Lakewood. But I think it's important. I think it's one of those quality of life issues. So if we can, just make sure that we don't lose track of that. I'm sure I'll be gone from the council when we'll even start, having a working plan on that. But if we can do that, it'd be great. Couple items for the public. Everyone is invited. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m. is a unveiling of the Downey Cemetery. Is new gates and lights that were donated by the county. Janice Hahn provided that. We had unfortunately some vandalism over the years, and it was open. And so now we have some gates there, and public's invited 6 o'clock. And then Thursday is at 10 a.m. at the Discovery Park is the unveiling of the bike share program. We've seen it around other cities where people can rent a bike for a real nominal fee and be able to use it. It's really our way of continuing to encourage bike riding and a healthy lifestyle. So that is 10 o'clock on Thursday. And then Friday will be we're going to have a photo op, kind of a ceremony to launch the Rio Hondo upgrades. Rio Hondo Country Event Center is maybe many of you may not know. It's owned by the city, and it really is a gem in our community. It's visited by people from all over the region, and this year, actually the last 2 years, we've been updating it. It was getting a little tired, and we know that the importance of having that showcase well. So we've done some upgrades there and spent quite a bit of money, of your money, to improve it, and we want to showcase that. So we'll be doing something, I think, in the summer to a little bit bigger, to invite everyone, but this Friday at 6 o'clock. And then the library, I know there's been a lot of questions on social media regarding the library upgrades. As we've said in the past, the library hasn't been, very minimal upgrades or since it was built, 40, 50 years ago. So as a result of Measure S, one of the things that we want to do is update our library and bring it up to speed to the needs of today. And I know the public had a lot of questions regarding that because it will be closed for a significant amount of time. So Saturday, February 9th from 10 to 11, there will be a community information session there at the Cormac Room. Everyone is invited, and you will hear more about the whole process and what some of the things that we're going to be doing in that library, and we'd like to hear your input as well. And on that same day, they will be providing a special kids program on that day, and then there will also be some members or representatives from other neighboring surrounding libraries. Well, they'll be able to provide a registration and library cards for those who may want to visit other libraries in the interim. Tomorrow night is the homeless count. I think the whole council is going to be participating in that. The public is welcome to attend. It's will be at First Baptist Church at 7 p.m. They do ask that you register ahead of time. I think it's LASA.org, LA Housing. What is it, Rick? They count will you.org. You're right. So that's at 7 p.m. at Downey First Baptist Church. You're going to hear from some police officers tonight. We mentioned at the last meeting regarding really the travesty that happened in the judicial system, where the people who, one of the persons who was responsible, one of the killers of our dear officer Ricky Galvez, who passed away a few years ago, was sentenced to a ridiculous nominal amount of period, will be released in the next couple of years. And that was the result of a legislation that was passed late last year. And you're going to hear from them tonight. And just, you know, I want you, everyone, you know, to take this opportunity, since the chamber is so full, to please pay close attention. And I hope you come away realizing that, you know, campaigns matter, who we send to Sacramento matter, and this is precisely that reason. You know, we all support our police and fire and our special and our public safety people, but you know, this is one of those things that just it doesn't pass a smell test, and I think that we need to send a message to Sacramento that what happened in this particular case, and probably is going to happen in other cases, unfortunately, is just not reasonable. It's not acceptable, and we, you know, so if you can do your part, if something that you hopefully agree with, by writing letters, contacting your state legislature to really fix this. It's really a loophole as far as I'm concerned. It just basically the person, one of the killers, is going to be receiving, I think it's 5 years in prison, or not even prison. He's going to be in juvenile hall. So I mean, imagine a person who kills an officer is going to, in this case, receive less than 5 years in jail. It just behooves the common decency, common sense of all of us. So we ask the public support. Myself, I'm speaking as myself, not on behalf of the city, as an official city. We're going to be taking that issue soon as a council, but we would appreciate the public support in this. As I mentioned in the planning session, I know we had discussed this a few years back, but I think the time has come regarding the shopping carts in our community continue to be rampant. If we can, I know we brought it up, and I know staff said they were going to bring it to us this year, but if we can do that sooner rather than later. I know that the legwork has already been done, but I think it really is important for the quality of life that the shopping carts loose in the city. It's just one of those things that it just looks horrible. And then another thing, if I noticed this past week there was a cell phone tower that was installed over off of Florence and Sideview, and it just looks, I mean, there's wires everywhere. It looks terrible. I got to believe that it's not complete, but I don't know what kind of, if we have, what kind of standard we have, or if we have some kind of aesthetic requirement in our city code. But if we don't, if we can take a look at that and bring it back, because it's just, I mean, the amount of wires, it just looks terrible.
I'll follow up, but we do have a design guidelines for towers. So, but I'll find out.
Very well. And I believe that that concludes my comments. I want to thank the Seroptimists also. I know they're here; they're going to get recognized. But thank you for all your service to our community, and also Courage Forward is here, of course, representing our veterans. That concludes my comments. You want to?
Claudia, you're up.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Again, welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. I have a brief report. I had the pleasure of attending the first annual Human Trafficking Forum and Fair, and this was January 12th. This was put together by our Seroptimist International Downey in coordination with Cecilia Goñez, and they're up in our agenda for later recognition. But I've got to tell you that for those of us that are not really aware that currently currently, the numbers show there's 27 million adults and approximately 13 million children involved in some kind of human trafficking. And now human trafficking is expected to surpass drug trade in the next 5 years. Now, those are some sobering numbers. And again, there are more slaves, human slaves, in the world today than ever before in history. And so we really need to think about what those numbers mean. I know our community is a good and is a strong community. However, it is important for us to come together and raise the level of awareness and raise the level of education, because this is happening in large cities, small cities, suburbs, affluent communities, less affluent communities. And so we need to have these conversations. And it is my goal as your newly elected council member to bring a coalition, a collaboration of various groups and experts in this field, and make sure that we bring the level of awareness, because our community, the 3 major cities in the United States that are really grappling with this situation are New York, Florida, and Los Angeles. And again, we're only 12 miles east of Los Angeles. And again, we're close to the Long Beach corridor, and we need to bring a higher level of awareness for that community. So I will get to our presentations in a little bit, but I just want to raise the level of awareness, because as a community, we cannot sit silent and not do anything about it. Secondly, January 16th through the 18th, I had the pleasure and the opportunity to attend the League of California Cities New Mayors and New Council Members Academy with our city manager, thank you. And we had the opportunity in Sacramento, we had the opportunity to meet with our Senator Bob Archuleta and discuss legislation that is coming up in Sacramento that directly impacts the city of Downey. And so we're going to be watching very closely, as Councilmember Saab alluded to a little bit ago, legislation dealing with what happened with our fallen police officer, Ricky Galvez, and other legislation. In fact, related to human trafficking, there was 2 pieces of legislation aimed at better understanding and curbing human trafficking and protecting the lives. And these will receive hearings in the Senate Judiciary and Rules Committee, and these were voted on Wednesday. And so there is legislation right now that is going through our country. I also want to let you know I attended the Ethics and Compliance course for newly elected officials. Glad to have completed that. And also on Saturday, I attended the Latino Leadership and Policy Foundation annual luncheon. It is important, again, to know and be aware of the pieces of legislation that are impacting our community. And as Councilmember Saab mentioned, we are, as a council, we are looking at the initiatives and the goals that we are going to be focused on for 2019 and making sure that those are aligning with our overarching goals for our community. And again, public safety and the growth of our community, but certainly some of the initiatives that we want to make sure all of our residents are aware of. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments for this evening.
Thank you, Claudia. And Mike.
I do want to recognize my husband, Noveris Frometa. Thank you for being here.
Now moving on to my extreme right, Sean.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, first and foremost, I don't, just on a personal note, I've been affected by, well, I shouldn't say affected. My regular job is I teach for LA Unified School District. So when you've been watching on the news and watching the teachers striking and all that, that was me out there in the rain. So, well, my purpose, as much as I appreciate the applause, my purpose for that is really just to announce that today they've announced that they've come to a settlement, and I know I had to go vote earlier today on it. And hopefully it all gets taken care of, and as much as I understood why I had to do it. I'm glad that we're done and we can go back to our regular job, which is just teaching and making sure that we have what's best for our students. So again, for me personally, like money's money. You can only have so much of it, and when you die, it ain't gonna do you any good. But for me, a lot of what we were fighting for was about taking care of our students, and so having more nurses, more teachers, lower class sizes. So it's just, thank you for allowing me to kind of personalize this a little bit. With that, I did attend a few things over the past couple weeks. So Friday, I flew up to Sacramento for the League of California Cities. I sit on the Transportation Policy Committee. It's my second year on the committee, and we got an update on the governor's budget. One of the things that kind of came out with that, and you might have heard about this, was in the state of California, we do have a lack of housing, but what really concerned me was the governor kind of tying transportation funds to that housing. With the elections in November, there was Prop 6 that was on the ballot, and that was defeated, which meant that there's a mandate from the citizens of California that expect their transportation networks to be taken care of, and to tie in other things to that kind of goes against what our voters voted on. So we made sure that we let the governor's one of the governor's secretary, the governor's secretary of staff was there, and we let her know that we weren't happy with that comment, and leave the transportation funds alone. Spend them on what the voters actually wanted them spent on. Coming back on that, the next day, I had the opportunity to go to the Keep Downey Beautiful cleanup, and we met in the downtown area, and this was right after 4 days of rain, and I'm still amazed at how much trash kind of gets out there. So, we had 50 some odd volunteers that were out there, and so if you went, thank you so much for attending. It means a lot to me. That's one of the things I've been involved with since I've I can't even remember how, like 14, 15 years I've been dealing with Keep Downey Beautiful. So if you are interested in participating, next month will be the cleanup on the third Saturday. I forget the exact number, but it'll be the third Saturday, and we'll be meeting at the Park and Ride parking lot that's on off of Lakewood Boulevard, just north of the 5 freeway. I forget there's a side street, Vista Del Rosa or something there. So, but it's the Park and Ride lot, and we'd love to have you there. If you can get there at 8:45, we'll be done by 10:15, and have some fun, make some, maybe meet some new friends, and maybe win a gift card. Who knows? Couple things coming up. So Councilmember Saab mentioned the homeless count that's going to be tomorrow evening. Again, please register for that. That's we spend all night going through the city of Downey looking for those people who are homeless, and the purpose for doing that is to help allocate funding for services for those people, so we can make sure that we are taking care of them in a way that we can get them off the street and get them, job services or housing services or whatever they might need. So, if the more people we have out there, the easier it is for everyone else. So again, I believe you go to theycountwillyou.org, and they will have that information there. We also have the ribbon cutting just before that at the Downey Cemetery. So again, thank you to the supervisor for giving us the extra funding to help with that, to help make that area a little bit less of a target for vandalism. With that said, I do have one thing I did want to bring up as well. I was reading an article the other day from the mayor of Long Beach, Robert Garcia, and he mentioned that they were doing something for the federal workers that are being basically they're working, they're not getting paid. And one thing that the city of Long Beach is doing is they're looking at their their water bills and their trash bills that they have, whatever services they provide, and trying to give them, those people that are on furlough, at least a break as far as, we're not forgiving the loan, but we'll give you time to pay that, so that way, during this time, we know that you have a lot on your mind. You have mortgage payments and rent payments and the such. And I was hoping that maybe with the approval of council, if we could do something like that for our, if we have federal workers that are involved in this partial government shutdown, where we could do something like that, at least for our water bill, because I know that's something we have direct control over, and maybe we can bring that up at the next agenda meeting, or the next council meeting. So if we could do that, I'd appreciate that. And with that, that concludes my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Sean. Blanca Pacheco.
Thank you. I want to start off by saying welcome, everyone. And if you were here the last council meeting, you knew I wasn't able to speak, so I'm glad to have my voice back. So I want to thank Councilmember Sean Ashton and for our mayor who were able to speak on my behalf. So a couple of events that I attended. I also attended the human trafficking event. This was an eye-opener for me, so I also want to thank this Optimist group and Cecilia for bringing this awareness to the forefront. I will also be working with Councilmember Claudia Frometa so that way we can bring more awareness to the community, because it is important for our community to become aware of this. So I truly appreciate the event, and I look forward to working with you ladies. Let's give them a round of applause. So last week, I also had the pleasure of going up to Sacramento. I'm the vice chair of the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee for the League of California Cities. And one of the housing bills that we went over was SB 50, which is a high-density transit bill. What this bill would impose upon our cities is that we create high-density housing within a half mile of a rail transit station, within a quarter mile of a high-frequency bus stop, and within a high job-rich neighborhood. So there's many issues regarding this bill. One of them is, what is a high-rich job neighborhood? This could be our downtown Downey. This could be many parts of our city. Also, we have a light rail station here within our city. We're getting another one. So this could actually impact our neighborhoods in the sense of we can have apartment buildings next to our light rail and next to our bus stops. And also the parking requirements that is being imposed would be eliminated. So what that means is that we will have more parking issues in our city. We will have more traffic issues within our city. So what we did in our committee is we opposed the bill only if amended. So what we want to do with Senator Scott Wiener, who is the one that introduced this bill, is we want to continue that dialogue with him to make sure that we are fully protected here in our city. So this bill is very important to me because I understand the detriment that it would have within our city. And I am going to continue fighting to make sure that we maintain local control. Upcoming events, we have tomorrow a landlord rights workshop here at the Downey Library from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Also on February 2nd, AutoZone on Paramount Boulevard is having their used oil filter event, and this is from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So please bring your used oil filters if you have any. Also, February 2nd, the Space Center is having an astronaut commemoration event, and this is from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on February 9th, Parks and Rec is having a job fair at the Barbara J. Riley Center at noon. And there's somebody here in the audience that has a birthday. So can I please have Christopher please stand? Let's wish him a happy birthday. And that concludes my comments.
You're a hard act to follow, Blanca. Well, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to be the mayor of this city. I've been the mayor effectively today 42 days, but who's counting? And I have to tell you, I'm pretty busy. I'm a full-time mayor, so I'm here at City Hall every day. Don't know how much that affects the city manager, but I'm here every day. And I have a lot of things to do. And starting off with SIACA. SIACA, I'm on their board, and SIACA does a lot of great things. They had a pet care event at Stonewood Mall last Sunday with discounted shots. They had adoptions of some pets there. A wonderful turnout in partnership with Stonewood Mall. Contract Cities, I'm on the executive board of Contract Cities. They had a event at the new Bank of California soccer stadium. I'm not a soccer fan, but wow, what a place that is to hold a meeting. We had our first inaugural business watch right here at the library. I was so proud of it. With Downey Police Department and our city staff, over 50 people attended that business watch meeting. That was wonderful, a great turnout for our business community. Then I attended the Friends of the Library. Friends of the Library, I'm very proud to be a member, a friend of the library, but it's really great to see these people in action, and they really do a great job. They're a self-funded program within our library. I also sit on the LA County Budget Oversight Committee downtown for Janice Hahn. I attended her meeting. And then we are preparing for a military service day to be held at Calvary Chapel in Downey on February 21st. So we had our first prep meeting last week. And this Military Service Day will be a event that we invite all of our high schools, both public and private, our surrounding cities and their schools, to come out, and we introduce them to all the branches of the military and all the different jobs, the jobs that are non-combat related, combat related, transferable skills to be offered to our juniors and seniors. So that's another easy pathway for them to be successful. I met with PIH, and it was a very good meeting here at City Hall. And their question to me was, how could they get more involved with our clergy council? And I was really excited because they came to us to ask about that. Every once in a while, I get an occasion to speak at our high schools, and I spoke at Warren High School. And my question to the seniors at Warren High School is, what's your next step? Graduation is a few months away, so what's your next step? Let's start thinking about it now. We have a 96% graduation rate in our city, and I really work hard to make that a better. I'd love to see 100%. But I want to give them the option for success. I also met the same day with the Downey Youth Commissioners. We have a wonderful youth commission, each one of us here at the dais, that we have selected from the best of our city to be a youth commissioner for the city of Downey. And so I met with them. And we can get some water to this. Hold on a second. Is he okay? Where you going? You okay?
No, I'd like some Robitussin, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, sir. So, so our youth commissioners, I asked them if they could think outside the box. They do a great job. And I asked them if they could do more. I'd love to see them serve more within our city. I want them to go to the next level. I want them not only to build programs for themselves right now, but the next commission coming in. And so they're actually working on that. Last Saturday, I attended with my colleagues, Alex Saab and Claudia. We attended the Grow Elect Luncheon. It was outstanding to see the Latino elected officials all throughout the state to see what they're doing to represent their cities. And I'm very fortunate to be invited to that. And then right after that, I was fortunate enough to attend with our former Mayor Mario Guerra, who's also our civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army, to Seal Beach to go help support our Coast Guard. As Sean mentioned about these furloughs and federal employees, I don't know if you know this or not, but the one branch of the military that doesn't get paid during the shutdown is the Coast Guard. So Save the Brave and Nick's group, Courage Forward and Bastards, all three of those groups got together, and Mario and Alex and myself, we put some money together, and we fed the Coast Guard housing people there in Seal Beach. And it was great to see these young people. They were so thankful. It was almost a day of relaxation for them. And so we were able to do that. And so with that in mind, I want to recognize our former Mayor Mario Guerra. All right. And then also our field deputy for our state, Senator Bob Archuleta, our field deputy, Scott Collins. And lastly, but not most, Okay, do I have to mention him? Okay, I'm just kidding. Relax. Chad Oberle for Christina Garcia's office. He's in the office somewhere. Chad. There you go, Chad. And a couple of personal friends of mine, Alex and Maria Arancibia. These two people are the spirit of volunteers in our city at the Downey First Christian Church, the food bank, homeless, or veterans. Whatever you call them, they're there to help. So Maria and Alex, thank you for being here and your family. All right, now's the best part of the meeting. We can do some presentations. So during my swear-in, I mentioned the idea of the Mayor's Servant Heart Award, a person that displays just the heart of a servant. And so today I'm going to recognize Simon Bochetto. Is he here somewhere? Simon, come on up here. I'm going to talk about you for a second. Stand right there. So seeing several problems in his community, Simon knew that something had to be done, and he could do something to help others. With the help of his father, Simon established Share Hope USA at the age of 8 years old. He has organized outreach events for homeless population and services that include free haircuts, medical needs. To date, he's fed over 7,000 homeless people. This little guy right here. So they say there's no such thing as a coincidence. I'm at Calvary Chapel in Downey, and we're doing the prep meeting for our veterans and for our high school students to prepare for the military service day. When one of the pastors walks up to me and hands me this article in the paper. I read the article in the paper. We contacted Tammy, and we said, we want to recognize this guy. So ladies and gentlemen, Simon Bochetto. Let's see if he works.
Thank you, Mayor Rodriguez and the City of Downey. When I started Share Hope USA, I only wanted to feed our local homeless. But nearly 4 years later and close to 8,000 homeless fed, I can see now that we are changing people's lives. It has not been easy, but nothing worth it ever is. We have quickly turned from not only a community outreach organization, but to a tool for young children like me who want to make a difference in this world. We are the future, and if we are to have a world of kindness and compassion, we must do our part to change this world now. It cannot wait. Kindness is not something that we do sometimes, or when we feel like it. Kindness is something that's a way of life. It's something that we do when we get up in the morning and when we go to bed at night. Think to yourself, what does kindness mean to me? Kindness creates change. Change is hard to be measured. We don't always know what a simple act of kindness can impact those around us. My dad says that hope starts as a ripple and ends as a tidal wave of change. I believe him. You only need to see the faces of those in the hospital and those homeless on the streets to know it's true. Thank you.
Simon, you're what this award's all about. Your heart. The Mayor's Servant Heart Award. In recognition of your selfless dedication and always going above and beyond for others. Your heartfelt efforts and accomplishments have been enormous value to our community to have helped further the common goal of making our city a better place for all. Given this day by me, Mayor Rick Rodriguez. That's yours. And then, because you have a servant's heart, you want these cool pins. All right, there you go. Your dad here with you? Come on, Dad, get up here. Simon, you left your speech here, but I'm going to use it next month. Moving on. So can I get Ben to come up and assist me for the Downey's Finest Award?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and citizens of Downey and colleagues. It's my pleasure to recognize one of the employees of the library. Mayor Rodriguez started a program called Downey's Finest, and it's recognizing people in the city of Downey who do kind of go above and beyond their everyday job. And just to start this thing off, I'm really fortunate to be able to lead two organizations in town, or to work for two organizations in town that see a lot of firsts. We see a lot of kids taking their first steps in our buildings. We see kids reading for the first time. We see a lot of adults reading and writing for the first time. And the person that we're going to recognize tonight as Downey's Finest is a longtime member of the library. She's been working at the library for 18 years and been the computer lab maven for the past 15 years. Her name is Myra Garcia, if you'd like to come up. So when I talk about firsts, Myra's there. She works the morning shift in the library, which means she sees about 15,000 patrons a year, at least. And she is constantly working with people to help them through getting used to 21st century technology. She sets up first email accounts for people so they can see their grandkids' pictures. She helps them with their first online job interviews. She is constantly there to answer questions and to do the IT work that most of us run away from every day. And she does it for free, and she does it with a smile on her face and with a calm demeanor, which has been sort of marked in some of the comments. She got this award because the mayor put out a call for people to share stories, and someone talked about how Myra's dedication to helping her in the computer lab helped this person get a job, which has completely turned her life around. And she credits all of that success to Myra. Yeah, Myra's created quite a following. When she's off or isn't scheduled or sick or something like that, we get a lot of complaints at the library, like, what the heck am I supposed to do? There are a lot of disappointed patrons because of her, but also a lot of super happy, very, very appreciative patrons too. So, you know, the City of Downey and the library are very fortunate to have a staff, many of whom are here tonight, around, that are there to help for free any day of the week, and we're happy to do it. But today we really, really want to recognize and appreciate Myra for all of her efforts. Thanks.
So Myra, with this in mind, as an unsung hero, your extraordinary everyday efforts to do the right thing and your commitment to excellence in all your work, all while being humble in your actions, is what makes you Downey's Finest. Thank you for furthering your common goal of making our city a better place for all. Thank you. This is yours. Let's take a picture. Right here in front with everybody.
Stand.
Okay, the next, before becoming mayor, I did a program called Pets for Troops. Sitting on the SIACA board of directors, I was able to work with SIACA and help our veterans get a forever companion. So I'd like to call up the family, Eloy, Nor, Aiden, and Kobe are in Sebia. So currently their son is serving in the Navy and he's been deployed. Yeah, there you go. so Kobe has been adopted from SIACA. Yep. We have a few things for Kobe. Let me share with you. There you go. Yeah, okay, we'll do that last. Okay, so we'll start off first with, I guess, Dad, we'll give this to you. There's a challenge coin.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
And that's for Mom.
All
City
right.
pin. And then, I guess because you're going to be doing all the work, you get the color and the leash. It's camouflaged like a... So this will go on Kobe.
Thank you.
And then he gets his leash as well.
Awesome.
And then he gets a tactical vest to wear. And on that tactical vest, he'll be wearing their son's patches on his vest.
Wow.
So, and the best part of the program is you get 100 pounds of dog food.
Say a few words. Say a few words about it.
Well, actually, we got the dog, because we miss our son and we're happy. And actually, our son misses our son, so we thought we got a dog, and we started looking around, and Siaka came up, and then I saw the plaque of Rick. I was like, man, that's a good place. It's beautiful. Rick's doing a good job here. I love the place. And then we started walking around. We found them. He was like, wow. It was a blessing, So we're proud to have him. We just got him like 2 weeks ago. He's only 3 months, and it's we're proud of our son, first of all, and then he's serving in the Navy, and then we're very proud of him. He's been in there. Yeah, he's moving on up, and he's doing good. He's on the Nimitz. He's serving the 7th Fleet. He's ranking up already. E3, we're proud of him, and then soon to be 3rd class. E4 soon, so he's the logistics, and very proud of him. Very proud of him.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing to talk. Thank you.
Let's put this on him real quick. Kobe, you don't bite, do you, Kobe? We'll find out. Kobe.
Just Mayor's.
Do you bite? I'll let Sean do this.
I'm a dog guy. Come on, Sean. He bites too. Yeah, he won't bite me. There's a cat. Well,
all right.
All right. Move it under here.
Sweet.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can always tighten up.
Yeah.
There you go, Kobe.
Thank
Ready
you.
for service, Kobe. There you go.
Come on, baby.
It probably worked better than the dog on the ground.
Yeah, right?
Come here, Kobe. Come here. All right, you guys ready? So if I should carry a roll to give me a hand? Microphone's off. Oh, you're...
Can you hear me? Oh yeah, I'm on. Good evening. My name is Carol Rowland, and I'm the Beautification and Recycling Coordinator for the City of Downey. I'd like to thank you for coming here this evening to honor 12 students for their artistic talent in creating artwork for the city's used oil and water pollution prevention campaign. This is the 24th year that the city has had this art competition promoting used oil and water pollution prevention. This art competition is made available to all 5th grade students in the public and private schools in Downey by a grant funded by Cal Recycle, the state's environmental department. This year, the used oil and water pollution prevention presentation was given to 1,645 students at 11 schools, and of those students, 388 students submitted their artwork for this year's contest. The purpose of this campaign is to teach us all about the importance of recycling used motor oil, filters, and reminding us that trash, chemicals, and automotive fluids that enter the storm drain directly to our ocean. These ads will appear in the Downey Patriot the 3rd Thursday of each month. Is that correct, Kevin? Thank you. And before I introduce the used oil consultant, Kevin Sells, and he's a gentleman that actually went out to each of the schools to give the presentation, I'm going to ask each of the parents not to take individual pictures. We'll take a group picture at the very end. So at this time, I would like to introduce Kevin Sales, who will be reading off the award winners, and I would like the mayor.
Okay, so
we have these also.
Yes. So we have the 12 winners from the 388 entries. And if I could just take a minute, this program would never happen if it wasn't for the support of all the schools. I know there's quite a few teachers and principals, so I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. Principals and teachers, if you would just stand up for a moment so that we can recognize you and thank you for all your hard work. Thank you very much. Okay, so students, winners, here's the deal. I'm going to call your name. You're going to come up. You're going to remember to smile. And the mayor is going to present you with a certificate from the city. We've also got an awards medal. And we've got a gift bag there with some movie passes to the Cinemark, gift card to Target, to thank you for your hard work, okay? Parents, I apologize in advance if I mess up anyone's name. Okay. So our first winner is Katie Elias from Maude Price. Katie, you want to, Carol, would you have him come stand on this side? Yeah. That's right on. Thank you. Hannah Fares from Gallatin. Oops. Maya Godino from Carpenter. Brian Escobar del Cid from Rio Hondo. Ibrahim Adel Hadi from Old River. Delilah Ortiz from Unsworth School. Alyssa Gonzalez from Maude Price. Jane Hahn from Unsworth. Hazel Lily Robles from Maude Price. Ali Gondike from Galden. Delia Espinosa from Carpenter School. And lastly, I'm not sure if she's here or not, Dana Mendoza from Gallatin. Dana? Okay, so guys, we're going to do a photo, and I think the city photographer is going to do it first, then we'll have time for the, okay. But before we do, I want you guys, to, if you have enough hands, I want you to put those medals on.
Do you need help? Oh, how nice.
Good job, guys. Good job. Yes, ma'am. So if I can call my council colleague, Claudia Frometa, to come and help me. She wrote you something here. She wrote you something here. I don't know if you want to read your own or.
Oh.
We switched them.
Okay. Yes.
All yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations to all the parents and the children for this recognition. At this time, I would like to recognize our Downey Optimist International group. If you ladies can please come up. I would like to first say a few words about this organization. I'll read this. Whereas Optimist International of Downey is an international volunteer organization for business and professional women who work to improve the lives of women and girls in local communities and throughout the world that are in a position to raise awareness for combating human trafficking by bringing together leaders and volunteers to come up with new ideas to fight trafficking at the national and grassroots level. Mr. Mayor, would you like to present this to them?
This is for them. We'll do that afterwards. Go ahead and do that.
Okay. Again, as I said earlier during my report, January 12th, this organization in coordination of, come forward, Cecilia. This young lady over here, she is passionate about bringing awareness and education about human trafficking. And as I mentioned to you earlier, there's approximately 27 million adults that are currently victims of this crime. And in addition to that, about 13 million children. And because of this first forum that was organized by this group of women and the passionate efforts and the vision that Cecilia has, Mayor Pro Tem Blanca Pacheco and I looked at each other and said, we really, from a community standpoint, and Blanca is standing over there, we need to do something about this. And we need to continue to, yes, Blanca, come over here, please. We need to work together to raise the level of awareness. Just as Mayor Rodriguez put together a clergy council, in the next several weeks, what we would like to do is put together a collaborative made up of members of different faith-based organizations and other organizations to elevate the level of awareness. Because as we said, this is an issue that is global, but is also affecting and impacting our communities. And as I mentioned earlier, there's 3 states in the United States that are really being impacted by this: New York, California, and Florida. But so I wanted to recognize you, Cecilia, for your passionate efforts and for bringing together this forum and coordinating it and organizing it. So congratulations. Words.
Well, really quick, Jess, thank you very much. I didn't look for any recognition, and it's just through all the work that we did together, my sorority, my sisters. I want to especially thank Tasha. She's my partner in crime, and Melissa. We did this all together, like emailing and calling and texting and stuff like that. And I'm really flattered for this. I love what I do, and I do what I love, and I have this so much passion for this issue because, like Claudia mentioned, you know, it's Texas, Florida, California, and New York. And also in California, because of the runaway amount of kids that we have more kids at risk. We have the main cities here, which is San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. So it's a lot of work to do. We need to bring awareness because a lot of people, till today, they don't know what human trafficking is. Human trafficking is the violation of the human rights. There's 2 types of human trafficking. It's the sex trafficking and the labor trafficking. So all we're trying to do is to bring awareness, to open your eyes, because we have the power to set human free. Okay, we need to come together as a faith community, as the city, Soroptimist, Rotary, all the clubs. We need to come together because we need to protect our kids, we need to protect our women, we need to protect our humans, because we are all human beings. Thank you so much.
So because of the passion of Claudia and Blanca and yourself and your colleagues, so whereas in 2011, President Barack Obama issued a presidential proclamation designating each January to be National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and whereas the anniversary of this proclamation became known as National Human Trafficking Awareness Day, and whereas slavery was officially abolished in the United States by the 13th Amendment in December 1865. However, its form still exists to date, and whereas at this present date, the United States is the source of transit destination country for modern slaves and children, women, and men. And whereas victims are all subjected to injustices of human trafficking, including sex trafficking, forced labor, involuntary servitude, forced marriage, and debt bondage. And whereas Soroptimist International of Downey, an international volunteer organization for business and professional women who work to improve the lives of women and girls in the local communities and throughout the world, are in a position to raise awareness for combating human trafficking by bringing together leaders and volunteers to come up with new ideas and fight trafficking at the national and grassroots levels. And now, therefore, I, Rick Rodriguez, being the mayor of the city of Downey, do hereby proclaim January 11th as Human Trafficking Awareness Day, with special recognition to Soroptimist International of Downey and their various contributions to many communities for the advocacy, action, and awareness. Thank you, ladies.
I just want to add something really quick.
Okay, so just maybe you guys think like, why are they talking so much about human trafficking? January is the National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. The original day is, like Mayor mentioned, is January 11. So from now on, you guys know, but let's not just work and talk about human trafficking in January. Let's do it every day for the rest of our lives so we can set humans free. Thank you.
All right, let's get a group shot up front. So our last appointment for this evening, Claudia, you want to?
Good evening again, everybody. We have quite a bit on the agenda tonight. Tonight is special as I became your newly elected councilperson this past November. I've had the pleasure to talk to many individuals about serving in various capacities in different committees and different commissions. And this particular individual I have known for the past 16 years. Our boys, now young men in college, are childhood friends. And I can say that this individual is a man of integrity. This man, he's a family man, a devoted father, and a solid and ethical businessman. Not only is he an expert in the real estate market, he's someone who knows and understands the fabric of this community because he was born and raised in Downey. Jimmy Dimitrios Spatopoulos, better known as Jimmy Spatos, has lived in the city of Downey for the past 30 years. He's a product of our Downey School District. He attended Spencer Williams, went on to West Middle and Warren High. And for the past 20 years, he's been in the real estate market, and he's been also a notary public. He specializes in commercial real estate. Jimmy has also served as the face of the California Association of Realtors in their media campaign, which included commercials, print, and web. He's also a restaurateur. He has run several businesses, several restaurants in the past, and including one in a neighboring city. And he is also, for many of us that have enjoyed and attended the Greek festival year after year at our Greek church here in Downey, Jimmy has successfully led that as a chairperson for about 8 years. Is that right, Jimmy? He grew revenues for about 10% year after year. And in his time off, he enjoys cycling, fishing, of course, real estate investing, and basketball. He currently lives in District 4 with his wife, Effie, and 2 wonderful children, Ariana and Tasso. It is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce you to the individual that I have chosen to serve as Planning Commissioner for District 4, Mr. Dimitrios Jimmy Spatopoulos. Jimmy, would you please come up, please? Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. I know you're going to do a wonderful job for our city. Thank you.
Hey, Claudia, don't go too far. You took my notes. At this time, I'd like to call up Alex and Claudia for the next presentation. You guys are up. So, these guys.
At this time, I would like to bring up David and Lily Gonzalez, please. We want to say a few words about David and Lily Gonzalez. We wanted to recognize these two individuals tonight for their efforts in creating Downey's first comparsa. And for those of us, or those of you that do not know what a comparsa is, this is a group, a dance group, particularly of individuals that would like to continue their Cuban heritage, the Cuban traditions, and the Cuban culture. When we talk about strong communities, we talk about engagement. And strong communities have that. The fabric of our community is made up of families that come together and, you know, look for common goals. And now this particular group that David had been thinking about for a very long time finally materialized this past, the latter part of 2018. And I will let David talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But this is the first dance group for children ages 5 to 16 that focuses on preserving the traditions and the heritage of the Cuban culture. The desire is to highlight and preserve the Cuban culture and music by creating this dance group. And he's contributing, when I talk about fostering strong communities, is by continuing to form lifelong relationships, friendships, and engaging dozens of family. That's what, you know, families and strong communities is all about. And most of these families that are part of this Downey comparsa actually live in Downey. David has been involved with Downey's Havana Nights rooftop event for several years. And together with his wife, Lily, they have 3 children. David Anthony, a graduate of St. Bosco High School, and their daughter, Sophia, who is also Miss Teen Downey, is that correct? And also little Giovanna, who is probably sitting right over there. They are involved in our community by serving through Girl Scouts and the Rose Flor Association, along with other community organizations. So we want to thank you for starting this comparsa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia. I've never been up here, so I'm trying to enjoy it for a minute, if you don't mind. The room kind of cleared out, but I know, is Mario still here? Oh, Mario left. There he is. There he is. Good evening. My name is David Gonzalez, my wife Lily Gonzalez, and I want to thank Claudia and Alex for nominating us for this commendation. It really does mean a lot. I made a few notes here. I'll try to be brief. I know the evening's been long. Like Claudia said, the Downey Comparsa was formed very recently, last year, and the focus is creating community, first and foremost, through the strong friendships that Claudia mentioned, and preserving our rich Hispanic traditions and culture alive, and thriving for generations to come through dance, music, and family. Again, I want to thank my wife Lily for her support and sharing this vision with me. I do accept this on behalf of all the special kids and the Comparsa families that have made up this special group. I will share that my 2 daughters, Sophia and Giovanna, were actually my initial motivation and inspiration in forming this special dance group and kid-centric community group. At Comparsa, kids rule and will always be considered first in everything we do. We plan and pledge to remain active this year and always being a reputable group in this special community. Thank you again for this recognition to the city and to the community. Thank you so much.
Another round of applause. All right. What happened? We lost somebody. Oh. I think you had enough break already, Mr. Saab. Okay, public hearing? None? Moving on, non-agenda public comment. Now's the time for non-agenda public comment. Before we begin the non-agenda public comment period, I'd like to remind the members of the audience of the city's meeting rules contained in the City Municipal Code. Members of the audience who wish to address the City Council during the non-agenda public comment are prohibited from engaging in any conduct that disrupts or interferes with the meeting, such as yelling, screaming, cheering, or whistling. If a speaker engages in conduct that disturbs or interferes with the meeting, I will ask the city manager to have the speaker removed from the chambers until the end of the non-agenda public comment period. I remind speakers that each person has 5 minutes to speak on non-agenda items, and their comments are to be addressed to me and not to any of the council or staff member. Please state your name for the record. Those wishing to speak may now come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Scott Collins from Senator Archuleta's office. First of all, I'd like to say I'm going to work on getting a certificate of recognition from Senator Archuleta for the council for the most presentations in a council meeting.
Please make it addressed to Claudia Fermetta.
I just wanted to give you a very quick update. I did meet with Captain Murray this morning. I've asked her to please make sure that I'm involved in all future meetings involving the Galvin situation.
Thank you, Scott.
I have spoken with the senator about it. I did give him a copy of the letter that the brother had submitted. It's going to be an uphill battle, but I guarantee you I'll put as much effort into it as possible to make sure we try to at least see something happen, or at least be recognized that there is a flaw with the system. So I just wanted to let you all know that we are moving forward with that, and that I'm diligently trying to get something done. Okay?
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Ralph Diaz, and I am a police officer here in the city of Downey. I am also the president of the Downey Police Officers Association. I'd like to thank the citizens here of Downey and also the council who have given us this platform to speak. On the morning of November 18th, 2015, it started pretty much the same as any other day. Ricky and I texting each other, asking if he was awake, asking if he was planning on attending a meeting in Pasadena, which was scheduled for noon. As usual, he was running late, and our jabs were sent back and forth via text. After the meeting, we had lunch, and then we parted ways. We continued to text that day. We had made plans to run the next day. But that evening, no longer did my plans change, but so did my life. In the years since, the city of Downey has heard all the stories about Ricky and how great of an officer he was, his tours of duty as a Marine, how much he was loved by friends and family, and the sacrifices he made in life. Some of you have followed the trial, read the various articles, maybe saw something on television. Some speakers here today will talk about what's going to occur and what will be happening. With Senate Bill 1437, the accomplice liability for felony murder, a juvenile suspect in Ricky's murder case is going to be released, possibly by the age of 25 or maybe even earlier. As the president of the Downey Police Officers Association, I have talked to different associations, and they are open arms about this change in legislation. I've talked to a representative from ALATCH, which is the Association for Los Angeles Deputies, who told me they have lobbyists in Sacramento trying to overturn the bill. I've also spoke to PORAC, which is the Peace Officers Research Association of California, who say that the District of San Diego district attorneys are in the process of suing the state. If you just read about Ricky's case and what occurred, you'll see the following. And this is printed in the Press Telegram webpage and on Los Angeles Wave newspaper. And this is a quote. When he was shown a still photo from surveillance camera footage in the parking lot, Diaz subsequently admitted that he and Knott had approached the BMW, one from each side, while Alvarez remained inside the Nissan Altima, end quote. Again, from a quote, Diaz subsequently was taped was tape recorded in the jailhouse conversations in which he admitted to being involved in the crime, saying that the three formulated to rob Galvez. According to the sheriff's sergeant, Diaz said he and Knott were wearing ski masks made of cloth to cover their faces. This is testimony from Los Angeles sergeant in the sheriff's department. The three, including Diaz, is also charged with robbing another man earlier the same day, as well as Knott and Alvarez, who are additionally charged with 2 other robberies the same day. Under Penal Code 211, robbery, which is defined as felonious taking of personal property in possession of another from his person or immediate presence and against his will, accomplished by means of force or fear. Per SB 1437, the bill requires the principal in the crime to act with malice aforethought. The person was a major participant in the underlying felony and acted with reckless indifference to human life. The suspect in this case, including the suspect who is going to be released early, not only planned to commit a felony, but he also participated in the robbery. He exited the vehicle, he approached Ricky's vehicle, and he was wearing a mask. They made those masks to hide their face. That same suspect is also charged with robbing another man earlier the same day. So if this suspect, who is a gang member, associating with other gang members, robbing people with a gun, using masks, based on the law, he is a major participant. He is charged with felony of robbing people. If the suspect are using guns, there's only one reason, and that's for the force or fear. I'm a police officer, and I understand the consequences of putting on my uniform every day. I understand I may not return home one day, and I accept that fate. The suspects in the murder of Ricky were part of a gang, robbing people at gunpoint with reckless indifference. They accepted and understood the consequences of that lifestyle, and they should too accept their fate and remain behind bars for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph.
Good evening, Mayor Rodriguez, Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco, council members, Mr. Levis, Mr. Escui, Chief Milligan, and city staff. My name is Mark McDaniel. I'm a captain in the Downey Police Department, and I'm also a resident of Downey. But this evening, I stand in front of you as the president of the Downey Police Management Association, and I'm speaking on behalf of our membership. I am here on my personal time. Before I begin, we appreciate the support of our Downey Council. Your support for public safety and keeping our residents safe needs to be recognized, so thank you. As a community, we're in this together. As law enforcement professionals, my members and I took an oath to uphold the law. It's important. It's in our DNA to speak up when there's injustice. Be the voice for those that have been victimized. We take this responsibility very seriously, and we will always protect our community and the residents we proudly serve every day. We will always speak up for the truth, justice, and the rule of law, period. Officer Ricky Galvez was murdered in the west parking lot of the Downey Police Department on November 18th, 2015. I was in court a month ago when Abel Diaz admitted to the murder of Ricky. 2 other adult defendants are still awaiting trial. Mr. Diaz is now 20 years old. Mr. Diaz was not some innocent kid caught up in the moment and an accident occurred. He actively participated with even his face partially covered to hide his identity in the murder of Ricky. He was one of the cowardly suspects that snuck up to Ricky's car when he was shot during an attempt robbery. With this in mind, how in the world can Mr. Diaz be released out into our community in the next few years? It's really unbelievable. And I've been asked the same question by so many people. However, not many people know about a new law that was passed in Sacramento. It wasn't voted on by the residents of California because the people of California would never have voted for such a dangerous law. SB 1437 eliminates murder liability for certain individuals that participate in felony acts. In the murder of Ricky and the subsequent prosecution and guilty plea by Mr. Diaz, there is no doubt this new law played a huge role in Mr. Diaz's criminal case in juvenile court. Matter of fact, there's a strong opinion by many that he'll spend only a few years in juvenile facility, most likely being released at the age of 22 or 23 years old. How in the world is this justice? It's almost like this law was written and passed after Ricky's murder for this particular incident and this particular defendant. I stood in the living room of the Galvez family a little over a month ago with Chief Milligan and other members of the Downey Police Department when we spoke with the Galvez family about this law and the ramifications of it. It was like they were victimized all over again. Do our elected officials in Sacramento fully understand what this is doing to the victims' families? Were the victims' families ever considered when this law was passed? When are we going to stop treating the suspects like victims and start respecting the families who have lost a loved one? This new law is retroactive and has the potential to release convicted murderers back into the community. There's a reason why the California Police Chiefs Association and the LA County District Attorneys Association oppose this law. This is not a partisan issue, folks. It's not Democrat or Republican. It was actually passed by a bipartisan vote. This is about what's right and what's wrong. It's about the rule of law. It's about justice. We have to get this fixed and make our community safer. I encourage and recommend the lawmakers do their research and understand those who lobby and are the driving forces behind this particular law. It's not always who they seem to be. It's an absolute embarrassment and disgrace in how Mr. Diaz's case in confinement has been handled. I commend the deputy district attorneys and sheriff investigators who were dealt a very difficult hand. The truth will eventually come out as we continue to fight for the justice for Ricky and our communities and our residents we sworn to protect. Questions will need to be answered, and the residents of Downey, this region, and in the state of California have to be able to trust the judicial system. It's the best in the world, and it should never be compromised. Thank you, and God bless Ricky Galvez, the Galvez family, and all the residents that we continue to represent and fight for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, my name is Mario Guerra. I'm here today on behalf of our police department and injustice that has happened to the family of our fallen officer, Ricky Galvez. As you mentioned, and thank you, I'm a former mayor of Downey, but I've also more proudly, or just as proudly, I should say more, I've been one of the chaplains for the Downey Police Department since I was ordained in 2002. I had the honor of working along some pretty amazing individuals in our department and been with 6 police chiefs. I had the pleasure of knowing Ricky Galvez. And like so many, I remember how his smile made everyone in his presence happy and comforted. And like everyone in our city, in our police department, I remember that fateful morning of his murder. I remember as we drove Ricky's body to the coroner, and as so many paid their respects on the side of the freeway. I remember driving with Councilman Brosmer and Sergeant Kelly and thinking that this was all a bad dream. I remember the pain that we all felt at his funeral. I was honored to preach at his funeral mass. Last month, just a few days before Christmas, we saw another injustice perpetrated upon the family of Officer Ricky Galvez because of the new law, Senate Bill 1437. As we listen in court as one of the murderers, Abel Diaz, admit to murder and robbery, our hearts ached all over again. For Ricky's family that was there and for so many that loved him. Listening to the details outlined in his guilty plea was more than a family can take. As a clergy, I believe in forgiveness, but I also believe in justice. And Ricky's family, our police department, his friends, our community, have not received justice. It's actually the reverse because of Senate Bill 1437. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilman Saab, for being in the courtroom last month, along with Chief Milligan, all our captains, and so many of our police department. It was a very tough day to listen to it. Adding insult to the family was the comments after the victim statements from the presiding judge. After hearing the heartbreaking testimony from Ricky's family, friends, and our police department, he said, "The sooner you can let this go, the sooner you can move on." It was insensitive and insulting and made that process just that more painful. Ricky's family will never be better off. Our police department will never be the same. and our city will never forget. I know that you all share the pain of losing Officer Ricky, and today I hope you can take some action. By letting our legislators know how our city feels through your leadership, it will send a message on how wrong it is to be victimized again. A few years in juvenile detention is not a fair punishment for the murder of Ricky Galvez, and Senate Bill 1437 did this. As law enforcement professionals and community leaders, we're all tasked with keeping our community safe. This law makes our cities less safe and will release people convicted of murder back into the community. This is not a partisan issue. It's about right and wrong. It's about the rule of law. And Senate Bill 1437 will negatively impact public safety. We need to be the voice for the victims and stand up for the victims who have been forgotten by the passage of this law. We appreciate your continued help, and I know and thank you for everything you do. I know every single one of you personally and our city staff, and you guys do an amazing job. So I hope you guys will send a message to our legislators in Sacramento. Thank you for listening today.
Thank you, Mario.
Well, isn't that admirable? Section 6085 articulates the right of persons to complain against the state bar. And we are going to do that. We're going to take an action against Sacramento and reflect that message right back to them, that the life of any officer, any human being, is a responsibility of Sacramento to act on the proper, adequate fairness and reasonable judgment to bring this bullshit law into our playground. And why do I say it this way? Because we're not limited to the right to fair and adequate and protected opportunities if we have a legislative in Sacramento protecting crooked politicians. For example, Mr. Thomas's son, Ridley Thomas Sebastian. What about our senator who quit for sexual harassment? These are the issues that pertain to our quality of life, ladies and gentlemen. This is the reason why we have to go after the state bar and show them that we're going to exercise our right as civilians and protect the lives and liberty of our community. And that's going to transpire by the quality of our action if we prevail. But my concern about SB 1437 is real simple. Bitch, bitch, bitch to them. And show them that our tax-paying dollars is not to cost families the memories of someone's death. True, money walks, bullshit walks, but Sacramento needs to take a walk and do something about this Senate Bill 1437. I am just one voice in Downey. I am one voice in the city of Los Angeles. But day after day, war after war, verbally, before elected officials, this is the result of their action. Censorship and suppress public participation. And this is what we get in return. Ignorant children who can't read or write or understand what's happening in your community. Because we have the internet to babysit. We have our families to send our children to schools with inadequate, unprofessional, educational people who want to sit there and babysit our children. So if we don't demand higher responsibilities by our legislative body, then we are nobodies. The Brown Act will articulate our criticism against fools who go around parading in a charade of masquerade party gowns to celebrate their individual wins. But what about the family of Mr. Ricky Galvin? And in the future, as I advise you, as I participated in the County Board of Supervisors, and I spoke about how illegal immigrants come into this country is one thing. But we need to protect our borders from illegal immigrants like Jose Huizar, an elected official who came from Zacatecas, and disrupt our lives by bringing the FBI to investigate corruption at a level that articulates the actions of what happened in the days of Chicago when local government participated in racketeering and corruption and conspiracy. So I know where I stand in justice. Where do you stand, elected officials? And thank you to the media who supports this action of SB 1437 to stop local entities, local governments from politically conspiring to take us apart for our tax-paying dollars. And like you said earlier, Mr. Mayor, elected Latinos are not elected because they want to. It's their selfish greed, like the Catholic Church who participated in the money laundering of Jose Huizar at Salesian Bishop Mora. They are as just blood guilty as that fucking individual who took the life of a police officer.
Thank you, Herman.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your comments. I'm sure a lot of children in our audience appreciate your comments as well. So, noting no further speakers, non-agenda public comment is now closed. Before I move on to consent calendar, I'd just like to briefly say this, gather my thoughts. Yeah, let's take a break. Let's take a break. 5 minutes. Let's take a break. Yeah, let's take a break.
You meant recess, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I know, like minute 4, and then I down. Yeah, he's on the channel. Almost done. Just got to get set. We're in the front. John, those lights are distracting. Let me tell you. So you stand in the front.
Good? Okay. So I just wanted to, and thank you, Alex, for recognizing you need a few minutes break. But I just wanted to say a few things real quick. And if there's any member of the PMA still here and POA still here, you know, this, no doubt, this is a very heartbreaking, heartfelt situation our city is in. And I think as elected officials, we have an obligation to our police department and to our citizens to do something. So I want, Mr. City Manager, if you can kind of bring us up to speed on what we're doing so far.
Sure, if I can get this
yeah,
mic.
the mics.
There he goes.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
have to touch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, as you indicated, it's very heartfelt in terms of the POA president coming up here and the police management coming up here and speaking about what happened to Officer Galvez. So there are a number of things that cities can do to help effectuate change, and I want to enumerate some of the things that we've done and some of the things that we will continue to do. We've sent position letters and discussion points on AB 109, AB 117, and AB 1437 and Prop 47, Prop 57. These are all propositions that were designed to limit the authority that police departments have and to minimize an early release of criminals onto our street as well. Now, the other thing we're doing is we're working with the League of California cities who represent 400 plus communities throughout the state of California to send letters and to lobby against all of these propositions. We also are engaged in with our state lobbyists to also do that and to make sure that we continue to put pressure on that. And then we're also working with a coalition called Taking Back Our Community, was a coalition of cities that are really dedicated to educating the public and improving law enforcement's ability to address the unintended consequences of things like AB 109 and AB 117 and Propositions 47 and 57. But really the big deal, I think, is us getting behind a ballot measure. And so staff is preparing a resolution in support of a police chiefs and grocers-sponsored criminal justice reform measure that is eligible for the November 2020 state ballot. And that particular ballot will address many of the issues that are faced in SB 1437. So it restricts the parolee from nonviolent offenders and authorizes felony sentences for certain offenses currently treated only as misdemeanors. And it will similarly, it'll reduce crime and Keep California Safe Act of 2018, which the city supported but failed. So there's been a number of initiatives that have been supported, but they didn't qualify for the ballot or they were pulled back by the governor. It imposes restrictions on parolee programs for nonviolent offenders who have completed the full term of their primary offense, expands the list of offenses that disqualify an inmate from this parolee program, and changes standards and requirements governing parolee decisions under this program. So and authorizes felony charges for specified theft crimes currently chargeable only as misdemeanors, including some theft crimes where the value is between $250 and $950. So what this does is really address many of the atrocities of many of the other bills that have previously passed. And really the way to get this reform passed is through the ballot box. And this particular item is going to be qualified in 2020. And so what we would urge is at that time to work with our other cities to provide an educational campaign in terms of what that particular ballot measure will do. And we will continue to work with neighboring cities to make sure we get the word out. So that's really the biggest and the most effective thing that we can do is to sponsor and to support legislation that will make the changes at a statewide level.
Thank you, Gilbert. Are there any council members who would like to remove any items on the consent calendar?
I need to abstain from item number 5 as I live within 500 feet of that project.
I also need to abstain from item number 6. I live within 500 feet of that item.
Mr. Mayor, I need to abstain from number 1 as I was not yet elected to the council when that meeting occurred.
That's the June 20th meeting.
The June 20th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Public comment. Is there any comments from the public on the consent calendar items only?
Truly, ladies and gentlemen of Downey, we're only spending 0.5% on a transaction or of transactions for the use of tax for Citizens Oversight Committee, which leads me to believe that the betterment of our community for $9.2 million approved by us at 63%. You got that, Bob Archuleta? 63%. We voted 0.5 cent tax under Measure S. Will you assist us in expanding the infrastructure of the 5 of our city so we don't have a bottleneck or the asbestos and the poisons of all these cars trafficking down our small city? Also, $9 million a year to fix our infrastructure would allow me to fix multiple infrastructure issues, such as on item 5, the American Disability Act, improvement to authorize Public Works director, it's been a late night, very intense night. But the engineer who we hire or contract, Ms. Pacheco, has come out to our area of the hood on the south end of Downey. And he used this process of engineering to take stagnant water that comes from the curb side about 5 feet when it heavily rains and restricts me for safely crossing the street, restricts me from safely entering any vehicle that's there to pick me up, to Uber me to my work in the city of LA. And I want that to change. We're wasting monies, public work monies, to send contractors to bid and do shoddy work. Is that what we expect in Downey, Ms. Pacheco? Come out there when it rains.
Herman, please.
Figure out with me.
Talk to me, Herman, please.
Figure it out with me, Mr. Mayor. Our capital improvement projects. $9 million is chump change to me when the city of Los Angeles paid out $1.2 billion Willits versus Los Angeles. And for the record, I don't wish to bring a lawsuit against this city simply because my rights under the ADA, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 are being violated simply because of my discussion of the ADA. And I hope that in front of Mr. Saab's office, that curb there, that ramp that is seriously outdated, falls under Public Works, is corrected and noted for the record. Because we spent so much money to build $600,000 homes for our children to live in, right? Off of Paramount. And yet not one of our children would be able to buy one of those homes. And that worries me, seeing those people living off of Downey behind the railroad tracks there off of Firestone in Downey. Needs to stop. If you really have a heart, a Christian heart, and believe in one God, a God that hates homosexuals, then let us fix the problem. We need to protect our citizens from old, unapproved, dilapidated, eroded infrastructure and apply improvements of capital $9.2 million for a betterment of community. And these expenditures should exhaust my time here. Shout out to the family of Ricky Galvin. God bless America. God bless Trump.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Faraz. So just a quick question for the item number 5. This is for funding to make repairs for the concretes in Downey, correct? For the item number 5? I'm sorry? Oh.
I'll let our city manager address that question.
Yeah. It's a notice of completion. The work has been completed. It's accepting the work.
I see. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Administrative reports, review it.
Still need to,
I'm sorry, excuse me.
A vote, I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry, I forgot about that. You get a vote, please. Herman throws me off track a little bit.
The consent calendar was approved with Councilmember Frometa abstaining from the meeting minutes of 6/2017, Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco abstaining from item number 5, and Mayor Rodriguez abstaining from item number 6.
Okay. Bless you. Moving on to administrative report, review and approve additional city council intergovernment committees and standing committees assignments for 2019. This item is to approve the appointments to additional city council intergovernment committees, standing committees, assignments for 2019.
Were these just not on last time?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Move to approve.
Second. Hold on.
And actually, Mayor, I have an announcement. In regards to the successor agency, which is item number 1 on the list, the city attorney abides this agency is composed of the entire council and no individual appointments are necessary. And then in regards to number 4 on the list, which is the street sweeping and catch basin cleaning subcommittee, it is at the discretion of the council whether to continue with the subcommittee, but the contract has been approved.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
For item number 4, that's already been.
yeah, if we did it, we can take it off.
If we need it in the future, the contract comes up, we can always read it.
Redo it, yeah. Okay.
So that would be to remove 1 and 4 from that
Right.
list?
We have it. Yeah. So I'll now open again this item for public comment. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak regarding this matter? Oh, surprise. Mr. Herman, please, empty your heart.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have an intergovernment committees. However, we have an oversight committee. But why don't we have an ADA committee? Why? Why can't we be practical and divide us equally among committees? I find that very interesting on behalf of public interest because, again, citizens need to acknowledge that the individuals with or without a disability can, should have the ability to participate in intergovernment committees as much as the standing committees on assignments and that of the oversight committee. But incidentally, we do not have an ADA committee. And that was something that I asked the DOJ to put into record at the time when I brought to your attention my Federal Highway Administration complaint with DOJ for ADA access. And you complied. Thank you, Mr. Livas. You complied, but only because of enforcement by the DOJ. And thank you to the constituent like myself who filed a complaint and registered it to Washington. And that's the only reason why it's happened. The same way we changed the Green Line issue under the ADA, that we had ADA parking on 2 parking lots, but not in a safe path of travel. And that's been corrected, no thanks to, yes, the public speaker who comes and participates and brings out exciting points about local business. Because I have an interest in government. And if government was like the so-called champions of Washington, my favorite advocate, African American, who you may all know, besides Martin Luther King, is that I have a dream. I have a dream to see in 2019 that our mayor, Mr. Rodriguez, will enact a standing ADA committee. And I'd be glad to chair it, to educate the public about our use of the ADA and access to equal access under the ADA. Thank you, Mr. Levi's. So, with my 1 minute standing, I shall reserve this time for you to close the meeting on my behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Herman. Is there a motion?
Second. I already made the motion.
Please vote.
The motion was approved unanimously.
Staff member comments, City Manager Levis, do you have any comments?
Mr. Mayor, I do want to say that I think we heard loud and clear from the POA today and from our police officers, and I know that you guys all have the same interest, and we're going to really work hard to see if we can really effectuate change and do our best to make sure that we lobby and support the legislation that I know that you all want to see happen to make those changes, so we're going to do that. And I just wanted to sort of correct one of the things on the ADA. We do have an ADA compliance plan, and not only do we have a sort of committee, we did one better. We have an ADA coordinator that is a full-time coordinator that watches out for the ADA issues in the city. So I didn't want to give the impression that we don't do anything on the ADA side. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight we're going to adjourn in memory of Officer Chattery Payne, 22, Louisiana State Police Department, and Natalie Corona, 22, of Davis Police Department, both killed in line of duty. Leslie Brown, 114-year-old oldest person in the United States, and Apollo 1, Space Shuttle Columbia, and Space Shuttle Challenger. In 2014, City Council established a tradition which in the second City Council meeting in January will adjourn in remembrance of the Apollo 1 astronauts, the Challenger Space Shuttle crew, and the Columbia Space Shuttle crew. The shuttles were built in the city of Downey by Rockwell International Space Transportation Systems Division. The city has honored the lost crews with plaques and commemorative rose garden at the Columbia Space Memorial Center. So this evening we'd like to adjourn in memory of those. Please, a moment of silence. Meeting adjourned.